questions?
Amars 1030 said, "Which kingdom is most important?"
I think they're all important. Like in my mind, I don't order it that way. I think what's most important for you in a certain situation. So if you're lacking a certain nutrient, like I know when we came to the island and she had the baby, her body needed animal foods. That was the most important thing at that moment that she could have integrated into her diet. But also the sugarcane juice and just eating fresh, organic, local things. I think that really nourished her body. But the animal foods in specific, I think, was what gave her vitality back. So at that point it was that, but there are going to be other times where it might be some other thing. The most important thing for you at some point might be an herb, might be just to eat some of the plant kingdoms or the bacteria, eat some fermented foods for your gut. Like what issues are you going through, what is your current state. Like I don't like to give blanket statements. I just want people to recognize that these are all tools that we could use at different stages of our development. So yeah, just be aware of that.
Somebody said, Curvy Impact. Say, can you get into what you were saying before about not making your diet a part of your identity?
Yeah, that's very important to me now, because the reason that I tapped into that is because I was one of the main people who did make their diet their identity. Like I was so engulfed into trying to be like a raw vegan or raw foodist at the time that I was literally scared to eat cooked food. Like I thought I was not going to be pure anymore. I thought I was like just killing my body, but it was just something that was in my mind because it wasn't my experience when I did do it. Now I will say that cooked foods, from my time being raw, they do have a dehydrating effect because we are cooking the water out of it. So you want to replenish your body with water and different types of forms of hydration, and so balance comes into play because you want raw foods too in your diet. You want to eat raw foods, you want to eat cooked foods, you want to eat all these different types of foods, right? But when we get into a diet and we get into these names like veganism or carnivore, all these things are just somebody's belief system that they organized it and now they're selling it to you. Because the way I look at it, like veganism is offering people salvation right now. And that's a very misguided, in my opinion, thing to say, because the only salvation for me that I think exists is within your own self. It has nothing to do with food. It's your own mind, it's your own thoughts, and how you're living your life, But to say that just by the changing the way you eat is going to save everything, that's never going to be the case, because we'll always perpetuate a consciousness until we become aware of it and do things differently. But I get it, because we come from such a unaware system. Like all the food that we eat, we're unaware of what we're eating. We're completely oblivious to it. So when we are offered a diet, it's like it opens up our eyes to, look, there's stuff in your food that you shouldn't be eating. Look, why are you even eating that? That's not even natural. Like you hadn't even thought about this. So you become so devoted to that particular diet that it just kind of engulfs your whole reality. But we have to transcend, or I should say for myself, I transcended that label because I had made it a part of my identity. So when people would attack that, I would feel like they were attacking me. They would try to take that away from the world. I feel like they're trying to take me from the world. They're trying to delete me because I had integrated that belief system as a part of my identity. But that's one thing I'm learning to be conscious of. To these belief systems, we could have them, and we could have these lifestyles, but don't make it a part of your identity, because there might come a time where you might need to develop and implement something different. And when you learn more information, you might need to change up that belief system. And if you have it attached to your identity, it's going to be much harder for you to do that, because you're going to experience resistance, because you're going to feel like you're taking away something from yourself. But yeah.
Tana Carlotta said, "What do you think about black seed oil?"
I've had black seed oil. I think that it can be used medicinally. But a lot of these oils, like I personally, wouldn't cook with or use every day, because I like to use things that are naturally easy to get oils from. So We use like coconut oil is our main oil that we use, but other things like ghee, but also like avocado oil. So you want to tap into more of the fruit oils because these foods already have a high fat content. It's not that hard to get oil from them. But when we're talking about seeds and things like that, it's a very small thing. So you got to think about how much it takes to get oil out of that. Like I can make coconut oil here in my house, you know, it's not that hard. But to get oil from that, you need industrial machines, you need a lot of processing, and a lot of these oils go rancid really quickly because they're just not designed to have oil extracted from them. But it's possible. But a lot of these corporations, like the canola oil with Monsanto and stuff, they taking these seeds because they genetically modify them. They could grow a lot of them and extract the oil from it. But it's just to me, it's not as natural as something like a coconut oil, avocado oil, even an olive oil, or you know, just getting fat from the actual animal, you know, from animal cuts that have more fat in them and stuff like that, you know. So that's my approach to it. But I do think it could be used medicinally. I have tried it and felt effects from it.
Okay, so Immortal Queen Becca asked, so did you say it's okay to have minerals in your water?
Yeah, I think it is okay to have minerals, but you got to be aware of what kind of minerals. Not all minerals are equal. So when you distill water, you're basically sucking everything out of it. You just breaking it down to H2O, but spring water is not H2O. Spring water is H2O plus minerals, plus structuring, plus just the energetics of the water is totally different. Like this is water that's been stagnant already, but in nature everything's flowing. So when you drinking water fresh from a spring, you are getting that energetic portion of water that we often don't get. But along with it, if it's contaminated, which most of the things on this planet are, you want to be aware of that. You could test the water. It has parts per million testers, which you know, which basically allowing you to see the total dissolved solids in that water, which will give you an idea of how much stuff is in there, but it's not really going to tell you what that stuff is, like what kind of minerals. So I think if you have the optimal opportunity, you want to filter that water through a filter that's really good and is putting the minerals back in there, running them through crystals and different types of rocks that's going to structure it and give it those minerals. I think that's ideally what you want to do if you have access to that. If not, I would get a spring water that's low parts per million, that's low TDS. So yeah, you know, you want minerals because that's conductivity. If you, like I said, if you have H2O, pure H2O with no minerals, the water's not conductive. Where people say we're 70% water, but that's not complete statement. We're 70% mineral water. Okay, so that's important. And that component of minerals is what lets electricity flow through you. So if you don't have the electricity, you know, I love Dr. Savvy people say the electric eat electric, but you know, the minerals do conduce to electricity.
What do you think about coconut water?
I love coconut water. Come on. They know me. I love coconut water. Yeah, coconut water is one of my favorite things to drink. I think if I could just drink coconut water, shit, I would. You know, there's a lot of minerals in coconut water, a lot of electrolytes. So you have like the potassium, sodium, the different electrolytes in there that is actually recharging your body. So when you're sweating, a lot of these electrolytes are lost. So you want to replenish them. And coconut water is one of my all-time favorites to do that.
Yeah. Ina Company asks, where do you get your divine wisdom from?
I mean, that's not on the 5 elements. that's from the ether. But I do want to say shout out to Ina Company because there's somebody that's here locally that's producing food.
Mm-hmm.
They grow, you know, the best lettuce in the Big Island. You know, maybe in the world.
Yeah, I was thinking that in the world.
Yeah, because it's a beautiful place to live, man. Like, but they just, the way they do things is like is very special, and they just take pride in what they do. So anything they create, you know, I think that they do a good job at it. So they grow lettuce, they grow kale, they grow some greens, you know, and I'm thankful for that because every time we get them, we do enjoy that.
Mhm. Okay. One Love Organic Farm asks, how have you felt since incorporating meat? What are the major differences you've noticed? What does a typical day of meals look like for you?
Okay. Um, when I first came to Hawaii and we started integrating animal foods, the first thing I think I ate was a scallop, but I definitely felt like my body noticed that I was eating a scallop. Like just something in my like brain went off. Like, oh shit! Like I don't know if it was because I was reintroducing something that I hadn't ate for a long time, or because it was giving my body something that I needed. But I definitely noticed that my body became more like aware in that moment when I ate that, and I was like, oh shoot! Like this is a different feeling that I haven't felt in a while. But I just think that animal foods go longer. Like the thing is, when I was raw vegan, it was always about food. So all day, every day, I had to plan my day around food, and I had to plan like where I was gonna go, if I was gonna have food there, if there was gonna be something that I could eat there, But now that I incorporated some of these more dense foods, like it's not, my day doesn't revolve around food. I could eat something in the rising, and it'll take me a long ways before I have to eat again. And the thing is, I don't even eat meat every day. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm just saying personally for me, like sometimes I feel more compelled to eat animal foods than other times. But one thing I do like is the eggs. I'll probably eat eggs every day because I just think that's a simple animal food that I think that I really enjoy and that really lasts a long time energetically wise, rather than if you're eating a smoothie, an hour or two later you gotta eat something else, and every 2 hours you're basically having to go to the fridge and make something for yourself. But these animal foods, they just take you longer because, like I said, it's just more condensed energy. That's the way I think of it, condensed energy, because these animals and like the ruminants, like the cows, they're taking the grass and they're digesting it in their stomach through a process called foregut or hindgut fermentation. They're breaking this the cellulose in the grass into usable protein, which they store in their tissues, right, and in the organs and stuff. So that's what I think about it. We're just condensing energy from our environment. That's what mammals do. So when you eat animal foods, they tend to have more energy that take you longer. But in the morning time, what I eat in the rising, I'll eat like some eggs. I like breadfruit. I'll make some breadfruit, and then sometimes we have pancakes and stuff, and I'll have like some coffee sometimes. I'll eat some local coffee. I like to put the Shilajit in there, and some local honey. Like we just try to eat local. Like we just try to eat local stuff that's from this environment, because we just want to support our environment first of all, and the community that exists here. But we also want to tap into the frequency, the vibration of where we live specifically, rather than, eating foods that are shipped in. And when you come to an island, you become aware of like shit, a lot of shit's shipped in. Like if we have to survive on things that are shipped in, we're not gonna make it if the docks close. If the ships stop coming, we're not gonna make it. So we already want to integrate and eat local. So that's not even a possibility for us. We're always straight, regardless of ships coming or not. So the more local we eat, the better we feel about connecting with our environment. And for like a meal, what we might have, you might have like some wild caught salmon or some local fish, some ahi or some ono, and we might have a salad to go with that. And just depending on what we're feeling, sometimes we eat beans and rice. But we always source in the best ingredients. We always source in the organic, wild if we can. Just things like that. Just those principles alone are going to take you further than the diet, because the diet, you could be vegan and eating the most processed food, but if you don't have those principles, you're not going to be successful. I've been successful in all the diets that I've done, and I'm not raw vegan not no more because I don't think it worked for me, but because it was able to work for me because I had the principles that I still have when it comes to food, as far as quality and local and fresh. That's going to take you further in the long run than any specific diet.
Should you eat meat slightly rare to preserve nutrients?
Yeah, I do recommend that you don't overcook actually any of your food. And that's the thing. We're talking about like beans and rice. A lot of the beans and rice, think of how long it takes to cook beans and rice, specifically beans. It's a long process, but I throw some organ meat, some liver in there, and that shit is cooked like in like 1 or 2 minutes, like it's already ready, because So I think about that. How much processing does it require? And the more processing it requires, the less I tend to think is more natural, because it's just going to take more from your body to process that itself if you don't process it yourself, right? But with the meat, yeah, you definitely want to keep it more on the rare side, medium rare side, so you preserve a lot of nutrients and shit. Even eat raw. Like, here's the thing. I want to dispel this myth real quick when it comes to parasites, because I know this is kind of linked to this question. Parasites are existing in your body because your hydrochloric acid in your stomach isn't strong enough. When you eat meat and animal foods, your hydrochloric acid has to become stronger to digest those foods. So naturally, in the process, it also becomes stronger to fend itself from parasites. When you eat plant foods, your hydrochloric acid goes down because it doesn't require as much energy to break down some of these things, depending on what foods you're eating, obviously. But so you're more susceptible to parasites. So it's like a, you know, we give him one thing, but we're giving an incomplete picture. So let me just bring it the whole picture, make it clear. Animal foods increase hydrochloric acid, which will actually protect you from parasites. So you don't have to worry about. And a lot of cultures ate meat raw. Like, it's completely natural to eat some of these things raw. You know, it's like you're not just gonna die from it. I know we've been conditioned that way, and then, you know, with the salmonella and all these things. But it's like sushi is a Japanese practice that has taken over the world, you know, and the fish is eaten raw, you know, but because we have these outbreaks and stuff like that, it has nothing to do with that particularly, but that's what they blame. So now we condition ourselves that, you know, that's part. But you do want to keep it as raw as possible, medium rare. Don't overcook anything, you know, just cook it to the point that it needs to be, and then eat it.
So how often should you eat organ meat?
I think if you feel like your body needs nutrition, I think you should eat organ meats every day. Like if you're feeling that from your body, like that you're missing something, I think you want to tap into eating that every day. But it's like everything has a purpose, so you got to be tuned into your body. And this is what one of the main takeaways I want people to know is that don't lose your intuition of your own body because you're tapping into a diet. Always be in tune with your body so that you know what your body needs. Because if you eat the same thing every day, you kind of tune out what your body might need because you're just kind of giving yourself everything every day. But kind of listen to what your body and realize and try it maybe. And if you get a good response from your body, keep eating it. And then maybe one day you'll be like, okay, I think I'm good on that. And then, you know, play it by that. So the more we tune into our bodies, the more these questions will become obvious to us, you know. Because we'll just be in tune with the cycles of our body and what it needs and requires at that time. Like, even with hydration, like, half the people ain't even in tune with the hydration in their body to know when they're thirsty or not, you know? So even something like that, you could use that as a model to tune into your body. Like, recognize when you're thirsty, and tune into that and become more aware of that. And then once you become more aware of that, I think the reason why I noticed that cooked food makes me dehydrated is because I was raw for so long that I became aware of my hydration. So now when I eat cooked food, I'll be like, damn, I'm thirsty as hell. Like this, and I know that it's because of the food. So hydration, it could be a tool to recognize and tune into your own body's needs. So
Speaking of hydration, Erica Ann wants to know, what is the best bottled water to drink?
I really don't recommend bottled water, but if you have to drink bottled water, well, I would get it in glass for sure. I don't recommend drinking anything out of plastic. You want to get your water in glass because when they package it at the facilities, they expand the plastic and then they pour the water right after, so all those chemicals from the bottle are seeping into the water and just exposed to the elements and stuff in the packaging process and the transportation is just contaminating the water bottle. So don't drink out of plastic. If you are going to get bottled water, get bottled in glass. You want get it like I said, a spring water that's just pure, that's just, you know, reliable. I know if you're in California, they got the Mountain Valley. Castle Rock is also one of the waters that I drink a lot. Yeah, so when it comes to bottled water, get some spring water. Something that, I don't know, sometimes they have the TDS and dissolved solids on it, or what kind of minerals it has in there, so you could look into that, but get it in glass for sure. Glass.
Miss Hollywood asks, what is the meaning of your new indigenous name?
Okay. Quetzalcoatl is one of the gods of creation, along with Quetzalcoatl. These are gods from the Aztec, Mayan, the Mesoamerican people of Mexico, the indigenous people of Mexico. But basically, it is, to me, it represents balance because it is a feathered serpent, and a serpent is in the ground. It's bound to the ground, like it's literally can't even jump or do nothing. Like it has to be on the ground. It's but the feathered part of it is that it has feathers so it can fly. So it's like both. Like yeah, we might go here in our mind and think of all these things, but always bring it back to earth, and always keep a balance between those two things. So that's what that represents for me, is the balance of being grounded and then also letting your imagination flow, the yin and the yang, and coming to that middle point. Yeah.
And Trucker by Diesel Diva, she asked, what do you all recommend for a truck driver as a means to weight control as well as weight loss?
I just think eating like pure foods, eating pure foods that's not processed. I think, and when you cook them, don't put too much oil and stuff on them. Try to eat things for what they are. Like a lot of times, I think we try to cover up things and add stuff to it. But I think if you simplified your diet, it doesn't matter what kingdoms you're eating it, as long as you have the principles of like local, fresh, organic, these principles. But try steaming some foods, try eating some food raw, just eat it in forms that are least processed. I think that's really going to help you, and just becoming aware. Every time you eat, become aware of what's in front of your plate, and don't just look at food like like be watching TV. But the more you become aware of actually what you're putting into your body, it's just going to bring you to a different level of understanding when it comes to food. And I think naturally you'll develop a regimen for yourself. Like, I don't like to hand out regimens because everybody's different and everybody's in different locations of the world, So I like to hand out principles that anybody could take. That's why I talk about the kingdoms, because these kingdoms are available everywhere. So, yeah, be mindful of what you eat. Just be aware of what you eat and know what you're putting into your body, and keep the principles of fresh, organic, with all around the board, and, include lifestyle into that. Lifestyle, you want to make sure you're moving, your body's moving, and you want to make sure you're embracing the elements for sure, because the elements are just going to tune you into your natural state, and your natural state isn't to be overweight. Your natural state is to be fit, to be able to get these foods from the environment, because to get some of these animal foods without grocery stores, you need to be fit to harvest it from the environment, to chase the animal down, to get it, to grab it, to carry it, to cut it. It requires you to be fit. So the more you tune into nature, just naturally you're going to become a more natural being, and that's not going to be overweight. Yeah.
Ina Company asks, where do you think you struggle most with your health? Where do you think you do the best?
That's a good question. I think with my health, just keeping a consistent, like, for me, it's just having a consistent, like, exercise, like, and just a movement lifestyle plan. I think what I do, I gotta do a lot of work on the computer, so I always have to try and remember to balance that, because I sit a lot to balance and and move around and go outside and do some exercise. I think that's the part that I struggle with. But the part that I do the best is always focusing and coming back to like local, whole foods, and just making the food myself. Like that's one of the things that I think always keep with me, because I have to make food for so long. Like when I was raw vegan, making these salads, these huge salads, and it become like a ritual to me. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the ritual of making coconut milk. When I bust the coconuts open, get the meat out, and I have to strain it, and it's like a whole process, and it could be tedious, but that is important to me, because I'd rather do that than go to the store and get some almond milk or some coconut milk, because I think that is just something else to it when I'm doing it, and it's fresh and it's from a local environment. So I think that's one of the principles that I've been easier for me to stay consistent with, is just doing that with the food.
Okay. This isn't a food question, but Noah J asked, what are some ways to ground in the winter?
So, I mean, yeah, that's like with the cold and stuff, and depending if there's snow, I don't know. To me, it's just you're gonna get the benefit out of it either way, and you're gonna actually get more benefit if it's cold, because you're gonna be doing cold therapy. So that's the way I would look at it. Like, shit, like I might be out here and it's cold, but it's actually a form of therapy as well. Like if follow Wim Hof. He does record-breaking like cold therapy. Like he'll submerge himself in water. But even if you go to the beach and just walk by the sand barefoot, where if you have a beach accessible to you or a water source, that's gonna ground you on a deeper level. But yeah, I know with the cold, it gets harder to ground. But they do have things where you could plug, the grounding rods where you could stick it to the ground and have a blanket and ground that way. So yeah, it just depends what you're willing to do. My mindset is there's no obstacles. Like you got to figure it out. Like figure out a way to make it work. Don't figure out a way to come up with an obstacle for yourself. Like you make it, you can find a way to make it work, even if it's more challenging. But still, if that's important to you, I think you'll find a way to make it work. And ultimately, if that environment is doing that, like I would ask myself that as well. Like maybe I want to relocate myself to an environment that I could do that better, or just make the situation that I'm already in better. Yeah.
Amarius asked, do you still eat only one meal a day?
You know what? Sometimes, but I think more now we have like a small like breakfast meal, and then we do have like a meal later on during the day. But it just depends. I go through cycles. Sometimes I fast. Like I fasted not too long ago here for a couple of days, and that's something that I keep with me all the time because I think that everything's important and everything has a purpose. Like I don't look at things as so black and white. Like that's good, that's bad. No, like what purpose does that serve? Like, and when can you use it depending on what you're going through. So yeah, like the 1 meal a day, like there might be times where I might go back into that, but for now, we typically have a breakfast meal, and then we have like our meal in the midday. Yeah.
Is that it? Cherokee asks, can our body absorb carbs?
Yeah. I think our bodies actually run on glucose. They run on carbohydrates. So that's the main fuel source for the body. I know the ketogenic diet is big, but that's a backup fuel source. And I think it has its purpose as well. Like I said, everything got a purpose. But our body is designed to run on glucose. It runs on sugar. So you can definitely use that as a food source. My thing is like you want to be careful of combining everything or too much, because I do, for myself, I feel like when I combine too much stuff, it's just a lot for the body to take in. The more you kind of refine that, I think the more you simplify it, the more your body can digest any of these things. And just while we're on the topic of digestion, your body can also digest meat. Like I said, like some of the plant foods that we eat are actually harder to digest than meat. If you eat a good local fresh meat source, you're gonna see that it's gonna digest better for you if you don't mix it up with a bunch of other stuff than some of the plants will. So it's just another myth, that we've been handed down. But yeah, our body can absorb carbohydrates.
Amarius asks, can you expand a bit more on food combining?
Yeah. So I think that if you want to get a certain nutrient from a food, or if you want to get the most benefit out of something, you want to eat it as pure as possible, like just that thing. Because the more you combine things, it's just going to be harder for your body to digest and break down, because it's just a lot of information for your body to intake. So the more you simplify things, the better that's going to tend to be, And I'm not saying you can't get to a state where your body can take all of that, but if you're in a state of becoming first aware and conscious of that, I think simplifying it is going to allow you to tap into an awareness of your body and how it does things better than if you just start throwing all the things, because then you're not going to know what is causing what. So simple is good. Is a good thing that you want to use and tap into. And then later, once you become more aware and you kind of give your body more what it needs, you can combine certain foods. But just certain foods, it's just combining them, it just becomes more stress on the body. Because your body has to use certain enzymes to break down. Like every food requires a different enzyme. So as soon as you smell the fruit, your body's already secreting a certain enzyme to break down that food. But if with that you put some fat or some animal foods or something different in there, now it's got to take out another enzyme to secrete that, to break that down. So it just becomes a lot for the body to do. But if you do a mono eating, I think simplifying it in that way can be beneficial for your health, for sure.
So Leslie, Vegas girl, she asks, I have lupus and I want to know if gluten-free is all hype.
No, I don't think it's all hype. I think that, I think that we have developed sensitivities, not necessarily because of that or of the food that contains, gluten in it, but through like the GMO. I know a lot of these GMO, these pesticides actually do create permeations in the gut, the intestinal gut. So when you have a protein like a gluten that's getting in there and it's going into your bloodstream, that's causing a reaction. I think that that's actually a real thing. So you want to, for that, I would say look into bone broth, look into healing your gut and rebuilding that lining in your intestine that's allowing those proteins to get into your bloodstream. So that's what I would do. I would look into bone broth and certain foods that are good for healing the gut, and certain fermented foods, certain bacterial cultures and probiotics, and vitamin K2 as well. Look into vitamin K2, which is found in liver, but it's not found in many foods. But liver, I know it's found in liver. So I think it's a real thing. Of course, some people might feel it more than others, depending on how their gut has been affected through the foods that they have eaten over the years. But I think it's real. And plus, you got to think that wheat is actually a very manipulated crop. So the levels of gluten that it has in it now aren't the same levels that it would have had in its wild form or in its untainted form, or even the form that our ancestors might have been eating it in. And then we could talk about your lineage, like where did your ancestors come from? Were they even eating gluten? Did they even develop a way to digest that more? So the answer to that question is going to depend on the person and their situation, on their lineage, their ancestral lineage, and different factors, but I do think it's a real thing.
One Love Organic Farm asks, herbivores have weak acid and large colons. Carnivores and humans have strong stomach acid and small colons. So what would that make us?
I think we're omnivores. I think we're omnivores. It's just who we are is different. Like as domesticated humans, we're different than our wild counterparts. Like the tribal people and stuff. Like if you even like people want to compare us to gorillas, but gorillas have a way bigger gut, and they can digest a lot of the plant food because they have a way bigger gut. And so they can break down a lot of the cellulose in the plant fibers and stuff. We're just not as in that way as certain herbivores. So I wouldn't put us in the category of herbivores. I would say we're more like omnivores, because that's why we can tap into all these kingdoms. But the thing about human, that we have ingenuity and that we can develop ways to process the food to make it work for us, because we have intelligence. That's an element that these animals, they don't have. They just operating off raw instinct and whatever, just been programmed into their DNA. But we have intelligence and we can make things work for us that might not work in their state that they're come in, but we can make it work for us and we can benefit from that, those foods. So I think we're omnivores.
And K Cutie Kiki asks, are you going to teach this again?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna talk about this, until I don't talk about it. I just think this is my diet type of thing. Like this is when I think about diet, I think about the 5 food kingdoms and the different things that you could eat from your environment. And also I want to develop like a principles, and I don't want to develop a diet because word diet already has dye in it. So I just think more in terms of principles and things that you could apply universally, no matter where you're at. That's going to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we also did a pre-record, so if you missed it, you can go on our YouTube channel and watch it. Okay, he's over here. He's over here trying to do something with the cacao pod. Oh.
This is the currency of my ancestors.
Oh, wow.
See that?
Mm-hmm. I want some of that. Does it go this way?
No, give me some.
Oh, look at that. Yummy.
Then we'll go for that.
So good.
Good? See, I want to get all of this. And you know the best part about the sweetness is from the juice of this. So if we get that juice, we're going to get the juice and actually collect the juice from this. And that's going to be the most magnificent thing that we get.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Cacao juice.
The baby woke up. Zen's like, I want some.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you break it up, go. If you break into it, you see how rich this is. Look at how rich that is. Look at the purple on it. Can you see it?
Don't go too close. There you go. Look at that.
See, that's just antioxidants. That's nutrition. It's just so rich, you know.
And it's bitters, and we need bitters in our diet.
Yeah, so this is chocolate in its most natural form, and this is what they make chocolate from. But you could eat it like this, actually. You know, I am going to eat it because it gives you energy. But it's not sweet.
Yeah, it's most definitely not sweet. Yoni Juju Botanical Herbs Teas. She said, I use navy bean flour. Do you or have you guys tried it? Is the navy bean good for you?
I've
never tried it. Yeah.
You know what? There's so many foods that like I'm not aware of that I've become aware of, and it's like every day I learn about a new food, and it just makes me realize like we've been eating the same shit all our life. You know, we're barely becoming aware of like these different food sources. So yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah, you said what that fruit was because somebody asked what fruit was that.
It's cacao.
Oh, okay. The YouTube channel is we both have two different YouTube channels. What's the name of your YouTube channel? Remember? That's the you changed it to.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's also going to be up on my channel, Zen Life TV, as well.
I was looking at it like, what is that?
It tastes like candy. Yeah, when you suck on the seed, it tastes like candy.
Like the outer pulp, it's like really minimal. It's very small, but it has a really sweet, nice flavor to it.
But then
once you crunch the bean, the cacao nut, like, it's bitter. It's not that bitter. It's actually more bitter once it's dried out. But yeah, the inside isn't sweet.
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
No, don't do that.
Okay. Of course he would reach for that. Okay, let's see. Now they're just making comments talking about the Tesla solar panels. I was like, you got Tesla solar panels. Okay, does anybody have any any questions in regards to the 5 kingdoms of food of what we talked about today? Yeah. If not, we're gonna go.
That's cool. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm definitely gonna talk about it more. Like, I'm not just gonna do this one time and that's it. Because I think I'm gonna keep refining it and just adding stuff and just information to it.
Yeah. So I don't look like nobody really has any more questions.
Okay.
Oh, so he asked what's for dinner.
Yeah, what is for dinner?
Well, leftovers. Black eyed peas, rice, avocado. You probably cooked that liver since you defrosted it. Yeah, and that's it.
Yep, so that's it.
Because I'm hungry.
I know, me too. I'm ready to eat. But it was super fun. Like, I really like diet. Like, talking about diet, like, that's what got me into my awakening, is just eating different. And it's something so simple, but I think it's one of the most revolutionary things we could do. And I think that just opens up the door to becoming aware of other things in your reality. And so I think that's why it's important to people. And plus, this sustains our life. Come on, like, you know, everybody eats every day. So just the more awareness I could bring to that, and I feel like the different element that I'm bringing to it, I think it's important. So I just have to share that with y'all because that's what's been given to me, and that's what's coming out of me. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I know I didn't look at this camera for the whole time, but we do have it on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube, and you know, appreciate it. And as always, stay balanced. All right, peace.
Peace.